that you will gain a lot of insight about blockchain, and hopefully we'll be able to put it to use in your jobs. So like you said, my name is Allison Combs. I am a senior business marketing and supply chain management major at Anderson University, and this is Ramiro.
Well, I'm Ramiro Herrera. I'm a senior supply chain and accounting major. And well, last semester, Dr. Whitehead assigned us a project to do some research on blockchain, and we came up with something pretty similar. And well, as she said, well, you asked if we could like expand our research a little bit and like bring it over. So this is what we came up with.
Well, to start out, Chuck sent this to me last week, and I thought it was funny and something to share with you guys, because we've noticed a lot through our initial research. People knew what blockchain, had heard the name, but didn't know exactly what it was. So today we're going to talk with you all about what it does and how you can apply it.
Okay, so here I have a couple quotes just to give you an idea of what blockchain is. We're going to expand a little bit, of course, later on the presentation. But it's basically a ledger of all transactions owned and monitored by everyone and controlled by no one. So the idea is that it eliminates a central authority that kind of regulates whatever industry or kind of market the blockchain is on, and basically gives the same power to every single computer, node, or entity that is in the network. Another definition is that the blockchain is an incorruptible digital ledger of economic transactions that can be programmed to record not just financial transactions, but virtually everything of value. When blockchain first started, it was like made for mostly financial and monetary transactions, but as it develops, it has been proved to be useful for literally all kinds of industries. Well, something that I thought was kind of funny to say, interesting, is that you don't really need to know what blockchain is or how it works to like actually like make use of it. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I don't know how a car works, but I still use it, and it takes me from point A to point B way faster than walking. So it's kind of the same concept with blockchain. So, well, here we go. Something that probably everybody's aware about, Bitcoin. Maybe, I mean, not everybody knows really what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin came out in 2009. It was created by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. Actually, that's believed to be a pseudonymous because nobody knows who the Satoshi Nakamoto is actually. And this was the first technology that used blockchain. The way that Bitcoin works is a cryptocurrency. It's an electronic currency that is not based on either gold, dollars, euros, or any kind of currency. So it's only based on supply and demand, which is kind of volatile. And I mean, some people love it, some people don't like it. But it's been growing pretty fast. It has these up and downs lately. Like I think it hit the $20,000 in December or something like that. And now it's all the way down to like 10,000 again. But it was the first application of blockchain, and since that it has derived like different uses and stuff. Right now there are 700 different cryptocurrencies. So one of the theories is probably one of the new currencies that will evolve. We actually overcome Bitcoin and become probably the currency of the future. Or maybe Bitcoin will keep on growing and become the currency of the future. I honestly believe that that's strongly going to depend on what the government does about it, because many countries have started to regulate it, and that's where it really started losing value.
Now this is kind of a way to look at it and how it works. Over here on the left, on the centralized, you'll see that's kind of what information technology kind of looks like today. But on the right, on the decentralized, is what blockchain looks like. It's more of a user-to-user or peer-to-peer basis. And this is what makes it so difficult for people to hack into your blockchain kind of system. Which makes it virtually unhackable and therefore very safe for your data. And then over here on the right, you can see these are also decentralized, and just shows that sometimes the ledgers are public and anyone can access records independently, and then sometimes they need to have permission to access these ledgers. And then what you kind of have is nodes, and those are the computers that are in the system. So I'm sure at work you have your computer, it's connected to your internet, that's secure, and that is your node. And if you had blockchain, you would be able to input data, and then everyone would have access to that. So everyone has the opportunity to see it, the permission, as long as they're in that network, and no one can change that once it's put in. And so that just helps you stay accountable and make sure that your records are safe and you know where everything's coming from. And then also kind of how you operate it, you use public and private keys. Your public key is kind of just how you can access the information. And the randomly generated string of numbers is your kind of ID, and that also helps with the security of it. And then the private key is your password, so you can get to your own information, like your Bitcoin data and different things like that.
Well, to give you an idea of how blockchain works, I want you to think about Google Docs. Before Google Docs, I mean, the only way you can work on a document, I mean, with a peer, it was you work on it, then you send it to somebody, then the person had to work on it and send it back to you and vice versa. That was really inefficient. You need to take too much time and energy. Imagine that when you send it to somebody, you wanted to keep working on it, but then the other person send it back and that duplicated document and created like disagreements, and it was completely inefficient. So Google Docs came with this idea in which like 2 or more people can work on the same document at the same time. This is kind of how blockchain works. It's a general ledger, let's say, of financial information in which everybody pours information. Probably the main difference between Google Docs and blockchain is that in blockchain, you can actually trace all the changes. Imagine if you could like go back to Google Docs and see all the changes that one person did. And well, you could like trace all the changes down.
All right, so some kind of qualifications of the blockchain system is that it's transparent and unhackable. And going back to the decentralized kind of look, that shows the transparency that anyone can see the data that's been put in so long as they have access to that network. And most of the blockchain systems have this kind of routine check every 10 minutes where it automatically updates it so you can stay on top of all the data. And it's unhackable because it would take a lot of manpower or computer power to access all the different nodes. So in theory, you could hack it, but in practice, it's practically impossible, making it a very secure and reliable system that you can use in your businesses.
So basically the way it works is, let's say you want to hack a computer of a company, you can go to like the main source of data, let's say if it's a cloud or a computer, and if you hack that main computer, you have access to everything. The way the blockchain works, you have to hack every single node or computer in the network. And that will take a huge amount of hacking power and even like electric power. That's what makes it theoretically impossible to hack.
And this also is beneficial because it saves companies money. It might be scary for the accountants in the room because it can eventually eliminate the need for auditors. But I see that in the more distant future. But if you're aware of the technology now and are able to utilize that in your practices, you could become a more valuable employee. So saving money is a really great asset for those businesses. And that leads us into our applications for blockchain.
Well, here we go. Well, as we say, auditing. Well, the way auditing has been working in the past is, and the auditors in the room can correct me if I'm mistaken, you take some samples of different documents like invoices and that kind of stuff, and you see if they match with like the paperwork on the other side to make sure if they are like correct and there's no fraud going on. Well, with blockchain, there's no need to check because you can set up the system in a way in like you cannot add information unless it matches. And then it's going into the blockchain. So if it already matches and it's in the blockchain, it cannot be eliminated. It's already like certified. And there is no need to call the auditors and make them go through all the information again. But as she said, I mean, this is not really likely to happen in the future, especially with the SEC and well, all the fraud that has happened in the past. Another pretty interesting idea that I read about on the internet is that it will be really beneficial for developing countries. I don't know if you guys realize by my accent, but I'm not American. I'm from a country called Argentina, all the way down in South America, a country that hasn't really been doing really well in the last 70 years. So, and one of the main reasons of that is because there's a huge level of government corruption. So, because blockchain is transparent and unhackable, it will solve the problem of corruption in the government. And also, another one of the implementations that I thought was pretty cool is in elections. Imagine if you can go to like a machine or computer and vote, and it's already in the blockchain, and it's unhackable. Nobody can erase it. So your vote is already there. But home, the way it works is that you put in a piece of paper and you send it like, you put it in a box. anyone can take that away, or even like take that vote and put a vote of the political party they support. So it would be a really good improvement for those third world countries that suffer so much of government corruption. Then other applications are smart contracts. I don't know if you guys have heard about, but these are new contracts that are coming out that use blockchain. And the way it works is, well, let me explain how contracts work right now. You basically have an entity like the government who regulates the contract. So in case that like somebody doesn't pay or something, you sue them, all that kind of stuff. The way it works with the smart contracts, you have a blockchain set up, and when like both parts of the contract are already in this public ledger, and they go into a contract. And when the date comes for the contract to be enforced, the blockchain does it by itself, either subtracting the money from one account and sending to the other one to make the payment, or in other kind of terms you want to put in the contract. It can also be used for protection of intellectual property. Instead of having an idea, having to go to like an entity and get it certified, and in the meantime it can be stolen or something, you just, as soon as it's created, you update it to the blockchain, and it's already certified, and it's already there in the blockchain. Everybody can see that it's your idea. They cannot take it away off the blockchain. The same principle can be applied for land title registration. If you have your piece of land, you just put that it's yours in the blockchain, and nobody can take that away. Where I come from, I've seen many times that like you have a piece of land that you own, and somebody kind of tries to steal it. If you don't have the proper paperwork, let's say you misplaced somehow, you have to go to court, and you're kind of likely to lose a piece of land. If you could have a whole blockchain that could, with all the information, let's say, of the whole United States, of the world, with who owns what, basically we will resolve the problem. And then for supply chain audit, we could trace every single raw material or piece from the beginning to the end. You just take, let's say, I don't know, some piece of meat or crop that you harvest or you fish or whatever, and you either like put in a bag and put a barcode or an RFID tag, and you put it in the blockchain. And then as it goes along the supply chain, as every single time it's like passed through to a different entity, another block gets added. And then the final consumer can even track it all the way down to the producer. I think that's really cool, especially for the blood diamonds and all that kind of stuff.
So we'll kind of look at some of the companies that already have blockchain in use. And some of them are what Ramirez already spoken on. And the first one is Walmart's Farm to Fork, and it is a system that assigns information to food as it travels through the supply chain. And this is super beneficial because it improves the food safety, because people can see where their food is coming from. And they have this idea of traceability versus transparency. And traceability is can follow a step by step and go backwards to where it came from, whereas transparency, you can look at everywhere it's been at once and see like how exactly it was processed or washed and by what company it was transported from across the country and different things like that. So you can get a full picture instead of taking it one step at a time. And it also encourages the producers to have good food safety practices and make sure that they're producing goods that won't harm the consumers. And as this grows, it will build consumer trust, which will also be good for the distributor as well as the producer. The next one is Maersk, and they are a really large international shipping company. And I don't know how many of you work with international shipping, but it can be a very extensive and expensive process where there's lots of paperwork that has to be signed, and if it is done incorrectly or you miss something, then the whole shipment, you have to just essentially send it back, and that costs you a lot of money. And with this, they are able to let everyone that needs to know the information, whether they're in the port or back at the company, and they can see where the package is and who signed for it, and it will essentially eliminate costs and help you make your shipments go faster. So that's a great one. And then finally, Everledger, they help with high-end products, and their blockchain essentially creates a digital twin of their product, and it will track it wherever it goes. They really utilize the RFID tags. And some of the ones they do are diamonds for Tiffany & Company, as well as expensive bottles of wine. They will attach a tag to it, and the consumer can go back and see who bottled the wine and where it came from and who shipped it and different things like that. And it's important to note, in the majority of these, IBM has really partnered with these companies to make sure that their blockchain technology gets utilized to its fullest potential. And it might seem like it's very expensive, but they utilize their current information systems, but enhance it with the blockchain technology. So it's not a complete overhaul. You still have some of the same stuff, but you're being able to use it better. And I'm sure some of you are wondering, is this worth it? Like, it sounds like it's expensive. And it might be initially, but it is really worth it. And some people that kind of expanded on the last three examples surveyed some business people from all across the globe, from America, Germany, Switzerland, England, different places like that, to see what they thought about those different things. So I know it might be a little difficult to read, but at the top you can see the results for Walmart's. And the top section is a benefit of the blockchain and their likeliness of adoption. So everyone rated well over the 5 points that they see the benefit and that it would be good. And they have a little bit less likeliness of adoption, but I just think that's the fear of an unknown technology and not seeing the results and the fruit of it just yet. But that goes to having to be ambitious business people and taking a little bit of a risk on new technology and trusting that it will help your company grow. So of the 150 individuals that were surveyed, only about 20% or 30 of them use that right now. But I'm sure since this was a little while ago that more and more people are starting to adopt the blockchain technology in their companies. So I hope that you've learned something, and we're happy to at least try to answer any questions you guys might have.